Hey, hi everyone, French Vinyl Addict on another special video. By the time this one will be published on my channel, I will be probably strolling through the alley of Den Bosch Mega Fair. Den Bosch is the biggest event when it comes to probably world's biggest record fair, record show, whatever, and I will be there. So hope maybe I will be able to meet up with one of you guys. I know some of people will take the trip from America. Well, lots of people from Germany who watches my channel, and just came up with the idea. The last video I made was about favorite year, which is which I picked 1969. But as Ben Rankins rightly said, he left a very interesting comment. Like every year it could be a favorite year. So when you think about that every Friday, it's like 30 or 40,000 new songs that are dropped like every Friday on Spotify. If one haven't find anything that suits us, that's because we probably haven't found, haven't searched hard enough, probably. And depending upon the genre, depending upon the trend or the time, I do have lots of favorite periods of time. And when I was thinking about 1969, it's interesting since it was so much of a pivotal year, culture, musical, political in general. And it made me want to rediscover the albums I got from the decade that was just about to end, so the 60s. And I do have lots of 60s records, mainly from Great Britain. I won't be talking about the Beatles, I won't be talking about the Stones in today's video, but it's something I don't see a lots of video. We talk about, I do talk about the progressive rock, glam rock, hard rock, post-punk, so mainly 70s, soul disco sometimes, 80s, new wave, electronic music, hip-hop, a bit less of the 90s, but I don't talk that much about the music from the 60s and from all this group that emerged from mainly from England. When you watch that concert, this NME, I think it's annual concert they made back in the days, this NME concert, especially from the year 1965, was very, very interesting because you can see the transition from the early 60s, like shuffle band or pop rock band combos, as we said, mainly inspired by the Americans. They were already doing their own stuff, no question about that. Moving gradually from blues, from the swing London 60s, where the lyrics are a bit more important or considered by the artists themselves, and where the albums, the golden era of the LP started to become true. It was not like, okay guys, you had a bunch of hits in the charts, now we can collect all those hits and put it on an LP. Was more like, okay, now we will be recording an album that has something like an ensemble. So this is probably how we some albums from 1965 onwards, like Rubber Soul probably started to land in the market. And it was not only a collection of singles, hit singles in the charts that are on the same album without any relevance, and I was lucky I could take several trips to the UK, so to find some of these original copies. I don't have only originals, pretty hard to find in good condition at a fair price. But simply love this this period of time, yeah, let's say covering 65 up until 69. So yeah, I will be talking about the second half of the decade. um, don't know how this video will title will be, like favorite artists or favorite albums. I don't know. We will mainly focus on yeah, on 60s British stuff in today's video. So yeah, enough talk. So yeah, let's start with the first one of that selection of my favorite 60s British stuff. Yeah, with a masterpiece. This is the Zombies, Odyssey and Oracle. Yeah, what a great album. Encapsulate the spirit of the late 60s in Britain. I think it wasn't there, but it's only my imagination. I like all the subjects that are covered on this album. It's maybe melancholic, the loneliness of the people. Yeah, pretty beautiful. This has been recorded in Abbey Road, as you probably know. They had access to all the same material. Yeah, it was followed by Sgt. Pepper's, the Beatles, and Moody Blues. So they had access to the Mellotron, and they made massive use of Mellotron on that one. Pretty impressive. Almost as good as a mid 60s Beatles album in my humble book. Killer tracks on that one. Time of the Season, which was a massive success. They had a massive success in the US, but ironically, when they already had disbanded, the thing is, the label, they released a comp, I think in the US, was like, hey, discover our new artist, something, or the label made it in the US, and people were crazy about Time of the Season, the last track on that one. But you know, the band had already gone, which is a pity. I think one of the member formed the band Argent, I think, yeah. But still, it's really amazing. This copy I got is a reissue I bought last year. I'm not really satisfied with the stereo. It's like a rough separation left and right. So yeah, I'm on lookout for a mono OG press to compare. But still, a great album, no question. Now, something I grew up with, an artist I discovered when I was like probably 14 years old. I was watching the movie Forrest Gump, and there is this scene when yeah, it's the Vietnam War. They walk through through a forest or a path, and you can hear that introduction of all along the Watchtower from Hendrix. And yeah, it blew my mind. And then I was lucky. Yeah, I spent quite a lot of time in Switzerland back in the days. My parents worked in Switzerland, so they were this store called Music Hug in downtown Basel, and they had a store that yeah, they had many instruments. They sold like piano, guitar, and they had a decent CD or record section back in the day with you could actually you could listen to those CDs, which was pretty unusual back in the day. So we had access, like I think 6 decks with headphones. So I spent like an entire Saturday afternoon, since the CDs were not sealed in France. The CD were sealed in the store, so you couldn't really try on site unless, you know, it was like an independent record dealer. But I bought mainly CDs in corporate store like Fnac, for instance, or in groceries like Walmart type of stuff in France. But in this store in Switzerland, they were not sealed, so you could actually take the CDs and listen to the CDs on site. This is how I discovered the Kings, and this guy. It's I recently bought this copy. Is not very in good condition, but it's still an album related to my teenage angst, for probably. What an amazing job! This sounds of guitar, this it's simply I don't have enough words to say how much I'm still I get emotional when I hear that feedback, that blast of fuzz guitar on the yeah, on have you ever been experienced, for instance, that song? I do have a soft spot for Little Wing, yeah, manic depression. It's yeah, it's part of my musical journey, so to say. So this is a British pressing. Yeah, as I said, the first album made '66, Jimi Hendrix Experience. Then another band, interesting. They evolved throughout the '60s with yeah, with their own style, like the Kings. I'm talking about the Small Faces. Had a massive hit with Sha La 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 Lee, Picture Up in a Friday Night, something like that. And what a great band! They yeah, they had this very very easy, like easier lyrics, but very upbeat songs, and evolved throughout more almost hard rock, I would say, music, and finally dropping this masterpiece, which is a concept album on side 2. What a genius! I really regret that it didn't kept, yeah, throughout the '70s. Long story short, they were about to 69. They were playing with a French artist called Johnny Hallyday, and Steve Marriott wanted to, yeah, to hire Peter Frampton in the band, but the other didn't want to, so they split. This is how it went, like the Faces and Humble Pie, which is a pretty pity, because what a great band would have been in the '70s if they had carried on. It was like quirky, offbeat, also typical sounds, lazy Sunday afternoon from '68 with that British accent that kills me every time. Tin Soldier, which is yeah, which is hard rock, proto hard rock with some soul influence. You know, the way Steve Marriott has a very specific voice, incredible voice, very interesting, almost, yeah, as Stevie Winwood, not the same, but you just to like very interesting vocal. You were like able to perform in several different genres, and yeah, pop, soul, proto hard rock, and yeah, this is one of my absolute favorite band from the British band from the '60s, the Small, yeah, the Small Faces. And yeah, as I said, I won't be talking about the Beatles or the Stones, even though I'm still a massive Beatles fan. And yeah, it was so important to me when I was 12, 14 years old, listening to all the Beatles catalog. And yeah, like, ironically or funny enough, as you guys say, one of the questions usually asked back in the days was, are you more Beatles or Stones? And one of the very funny response you could actually come up with was, yeah, Kings. So yeah, I do like the Kings. I attended 2016 a musical in London about the story of the career, the first leg of their journey, so to say, career, the Kings. Pretty interesting. And yeah, I do have several albums they made very early '60s. The Kings with You Really Got Me, really upbeat. I like the way Ray Davies sings on that one, like high pitch, a little bit like if you know that song She's a Woman, you know, McCartney, very high pitch in a way. He will like be giving up this way of singing, but I really like the transition, you know, from this album to this album, when it becomes a little bit more serious, you know. It's pretty much like the Beatles, you know. When you listen to the first Beatles, it's not about the lyrics; it's about the melody, it's about the catchy songs. No question about that. And interesting, you know, the Beatles, you know, the legend when Lennon was offered freewheeling Bob Dylan, they started to say, hey, we should maybe put more effort into the writing, into the text. And it's interesting, this is what happens here on this album. You had songs like Sunny Afternoon, which is a bit more serious in a way, and after songs, you know, like Lola, and which tells a little bit more about not only a boy meets a girl, some kind of stuff. Interesting band that was already nostalgic from the 60s, when they were actually experiencing the 60s, which is pretty uncommon, isn't it? And you know that story, you know, they were banned from playing in the US like 3 years because of some issues they had with the union or something. I don't have the details, remember correctly. But yeah, it's interesting because then at the very beginning of their career, they was like, hey, we should have a success in America. So their song were probably tailored to please the American audience. But when they knew, okay, now for the next 3 years we won't have any chance to go there to play in the American, to have like a empire like the Beatles or the Who they did back in the days, they focused on their own sensibility, own identity as guy from London. So telling songs about Britain in the 60s, like I said, very nostalgic in a way. With this one as well, you know, that's a concept album, sort of was intended to be a soundtrack for a TV show that never saw the light. But they kept the songs, and it's also nostalgic about that period, you know, post-Victorian era, you know, and this guy in the 60s want to immigrate in Australia. So yeah, the Kings, I'm not tired of listening to Sunny Afternoon, Lola, and and the other one I don't have a copy of, the Village Green Preservation Society. All this amazing one they came up with in the 60s. So this is the Kings. And now another very iconic band from the 60s and from the 70s, no question about that. I'm talking about the Who, especially those two albums, 65 and named Happy Jack, I think in the US, because a quick one was a little bit too much for the American audience or culture, whatever. And it's also interesting. As a musician, they were already accomplished. They had their own sense of humor, touch, I think. You can hear Pete Townsend wanted to raise the band to a certain level. They were that close to be almost a prog band, you know, when you listen to Tommy Quadrophenia, this was what he wanted to do. He was like maybe afraid or impressed when he was listening to Crimson or Sgt. Pepper, but really great album as well. With that sense of humor. It's worth a visit. We don't always talk about this era of the Who when we talk about. Always see, I have some French friends, VC friends. They know about the Who because of Who's Next, all that songs that were, you know, popular when NCIS, you know, the TV show, used them as a theme. But I have a soft spot for their 65, 68 period, the Who. Pretty interesting. So the Who. And now a little bit more obscure band from the 60s. I often talk about the band Family, Music in a Doll's House. I do have several albums. I have this one as well, Entertainment. Almost a prog band. This singer has a very distinctive voice, Roger Chapman. Made a huge career in the US, in Germany. Didn't have lots of success. They had some issues, I think, with yeah, due to some lineup changes, Rich also, I think, left the band where they were about to like, explode. Yeah, they had some yeah, some internal issues. I don't know if it's with ego or I don't know. But what is interesting is that they had their very blues heritage roots, and with the second album they gradually step away. It's not that verse chorus verse pattern, you know, structure. Bring something different to the table. And yeah, as for a 68 album, it's probably very ambitious, including Oriental touches in the song, but not only a collage like hey we need some 2 minutes or 2 patterns Indian music. It's not about that. It's really part of the ensemble. So and it was certainly a massive source of inspiration for for the prog generation that was about to come. But this is another story. And now another band that has been a massive source of inspiration for the prog band as well. The prog bands, the prog generation, progressive rock, even though they were not prog at all. I'm talking about a band I often mention, Fairport Convention. Fairport Convention, first ever album. Interesting. Judy Dybel was a singer. Folk album, as I said. Their producer, Joe Boyd. He came all the way from the US. He was working with Soft Machine, with Pink Floyd at their beginnings, you know, managing the UFO Club. Was their producer, as I said. And at that time, they were covering Emmett Rhodes, Bob Dylan, Johnny Mitchell song. And ironically, as an American, he said, hey, you're a young British guy, so you have to assume. So you have to do some British folk, and they were not keen at the beginning. So it moved gradually when they replaced Judy Dybel, hiring Sandy Denny, great singer. Sandy Denny has already composed songs, more folk. So was still a duality on this album, like half of the songs sung by Sandy Denny and the other half by Ian Matthews, which evolved gradually on this one, where she took the lead, totally took the lead. Sandy Denny, as I said, she had in her DNA the folk songs. She had recorded an album with the Strobes, and that was released only years after. And who knows where the time goes. For instance, what a beautiful song, Meet on the Ledge, which is on this one, A Sailor's Life, a traditional arrangement. It's simply beautiful. And so evolved through more British folk. They had, I think, an accident with a van, so they lost their drummer, which had to be replaced because of those circumstances, by Dave Mattox, who played in a ball. So playing drums was like very methodic, like really rhythmic. And he changed also the beat. Hired Dave Swarbrick as a violin player, very famous fiddle player. And they came up with this masterpiece. All these albums were released, I think, in the same year or 16 months apart. So they were pretty active. And this is a absolutely fantastic album. Legion Leaf, 1969, top of the British folk in my humble book. It's simply beautiful, with this middle-age influence, Matty Rose, and simply beautiful. This is a Fairport Convention. And another next one is very iconic artist as well, Donovan. Also related to folk, there is this very good documentary first aired on the British television, called Folk Britannia, which is now available on YouTube in several parts. I think Folk Britannia 1, 2, they made a several upload in several, they split in several parts, whatever, but very interesting. And yeah, we are learning about how it all began, or it all began in the 60s, where this guy, just like Bob Dylan, did cover songs of Arlo Guthrie, Lead Belly back in the days, and didn't have the same career as Dylan, obviously. This is the album he made when he got back from India in '68, because this guy, he took the trip with the Beatles, in India. He's the one who taught Lennon how to do the picking technique, as you can hear on the Dear Prudence White Album. And what I find very interesting on this one, the Hurdy-Gurdy Man, is all the songs are a sort of a photographic picture of the swinging London 60s. It has jazz, Indian music, pop, like early typical pop songs, like a beat melody catching, as I say, jazz, folk as well. Very interesting, very underrated album, yeah. So the Hurdy-Gurdy Man. Now another obscure band from the 60s. This is almost the 70s, but it's still the 60s. This is a Freedom. This is a power trio. This guy were originally part of Procol Harum. And yeah, this is a heavy blues, psych rock, as I really like. Catchy, simple, straight to the point. London City, what a great song. It's in a way a Peter Green, John Mayall, but with more hard rock, yeah, so to say. So in my humble book, so this is Freedom through the years. Incredible album. And last but not least, another classic band from the 60s, the Hollies. What I really like about this album is there is no like massive hit, like Bus Stop and all that kind of stuff. But they already had their sound. I find that record upon a trip I took in the UK when prior moving to Canada, in a very small record store in Arundel. Yeah, we stopped there because of the beautiful castle, and there is a record store in the village, hidden in a small mall. Yeah, like under the roof, lots of great records. And I found an OG press, Parlophone, didn't pay that much. Long story short, and the Hollies, I knew about the Hollies because of Graham Nash, and it's weird, it's written, there is the Graham Nash, a down-to-earth, sophisticated, who plays a solid rhythm guitar and speaks with an equally solid Mancunian accent. He's from Blackpool, so how funny is that? And distinctive sound, guitar, almost like as the Byrds in a way. That jangly guitar sound they had, catching melodies, very upbeat. Fifi the Flea is a very cool ballad. Just listened to that record yesterday, and it's some cover songs like "I Am a Rock" from Paul Simon. So the Hollies, not their favorite, not their best one. This is 1965. So one of the early Hollies material. So this is my British 60s selection. Hope you like it. Thanks for watching, and stay tuned for the next chapter. Bye bye.